back. I know you missed us. Welcome back to Uncinched, the podcast you didn't know you needed. We are welcoming back our segment, Uncinched Confessions, with our part 2 of our initial question. So, Taya, what was our initial question?
So our theme of this Uncinched Confession series was unpopular horse opinions that you will defend with your whole chest.
Yes, and so as you might remember from the first one, we started off a little tame, but this one, she's going to get a little spicy. So here we go. Let's get a little bit more controversial.
So just to kind of recap, last episode, there was lots of comments about bits. There was lots of comments about equipment. We kind of talked a little bit about horse lifestyle and welfare. This part 2 gets a little bit more controversial. We kind of left the spicy, more opinionated, more sassy, more polarizing, I guess I would say, opinions for part 2. So if you guys enjoyed part 1, you're definitely going to love part 2.
All right. So we do break them up into categories. We don't actually read any of them beforehand. We just break them up so that they're in kind of similar areas. So that way it's a little bit easier and we're not bouncing around too much. So without further ado, let's talk about breeding and industry realities.
Okay. First one in today's episode. This person says, 2 is too young for a full, in bold, start. And none of our colts get rode till 3 or close to.
I would agree with this. I wouldn't say that it's too young to start them, but they made it very distinct clarification of full. And I would agree with that because from a bodywork perspective, their bodies are still growing. Those tendons, those ligaments are still very, very malleable. And that means if you're putting too much pressure on the areas or overexerting them, it can cause a lot of stretch and it can cause damage that while it doesn't initially seem to be a problem, it'll make it loose and then therefore have some issues maybe performing or being in their discipline long term.
Yeah, I would agree. I think in a lot of ways, a lot of people like to start 2-year-olds because they're younger. They haven't spent a whole lot of their life kind of building a mind frame around what they think about people and work. And so in that forefront, I really do understand why people love to start their horses at 2. But I agree with this one in saying full start. There's a lot of corners of the horse world where we are trying to get 2-year-olds finished and doing those strenuous exercises like sliding stops, spins, things that we know scientifically are really hard on joints. And when you're 2 years old, I mean, the average 2-year-old, they look like a 2-year-old. They look like a lanky teenager. So I don't agree with that. But I also think that if you are very intentional about it and you're mindful, I think of like kid athletes in a lot of ways. Like, I think if you are not riding your horse a shit ton, you're not doing all of the strenuous things, I think starting your horse at 2 years old can really propel your horse's like mental capacity a lot farther, which can be nice. And then I also think you can start to develop muscles. And I personally don't see anything wrong with doing groundwork with a 2-year-old, getting them saddle broke and then like sitting on them and getting them to like basic walk, trot, maybe a little lope, maybe some little lateral control. But for me personally, I wouldn't be trying to teach them anything really beyond that.
I agree. Like, that's why I said I think it's more about that full start. Yeah. I think you should start your horses young. Yeah. I think you should even start putting saddles on at 1 if option.
Yeah.
Obviously not like heavy.
Yeah, but a little English
I wouldn't
saddle
get on,
yeah.
But just getting them used to the equipment, getting them understanding kind of what's going on. And I like your example of child athletes. you're not getting them to do these maneuvers immediately, but you are introducing them to, the techniques to those maneuvers. And it gives them the ability to get those steps, and it may help bridge gaps as they age of understanding, oh, I know how to do this, so this isn't as scary, and you're not pushing as hard in some regards.
Yeah. And I think back to, like, there's a lot of people out there who, like, well, if I can't ride my horse, they just kind of kick it out and leave them. But you lose so much, like, you kind of do yourself a disservice by not exposing your horse to stuff, by not getting them to do those things. By the time, I mean, we talked about this with Mel.
Yes.
When you have all of those things done, if you do decide to send your horse to a trainer once they turn 3 or 4, your money goes further. And I agree with the full start in bold.
Yes.
With this one, absolutely. And I think it's all in your intention, how you're doing things,
how long,
how strenuous, what maneuvers specifically you're doing, and also I think the individual itself. Because I've seen 2-year-olds who look like yearlings. Yeah, and then I've seen 2-year-olds who look like 5-6-year-olds. I think like people.
Yeah, I do think you have to be mindful of just size wise, because there are like you said, there are some that are so tiny you're like, I don't know, or the muscle is just not there.
Yeah,
and to develop that beforehand would be much easier for them and yourself.
Absolutely.
All right, next.
Okay, this one's kind of similar. January 1st birthdays and colts being started at technically 1. Ooh, actually, it's not similar. I can't even. Girl, I can't even either.
Yeah.
Why are we setting them up for arthritis and other issues by 5? Arg. Is that how you would say that?
Arg.
My skin boils. That's all.
Wow, 1? That's really early.
Yeah.
And I agree a little bit on the birthday thing, because, like, if your colt is born in May or June,
January 1st, you're like, it's a 3-year-old, but it's 2. 4 months for a horse
it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. And I think it's important to, recognize that time does change muscles. It does change their bodies, and they grow rapidly comparatively to us on that scale. Mm-hmm. And so those 4 months is more like a year for us, growing wise. So I think that it's important that we do recognize that. And if you're just like, oh yeah, they're 1, even though they're only 6 months old.
Yeah. Let's get on it.
Yeah. It's a little much. I definitely think you are setting them up for arthritis and other issues. But again, like we said in the first one, it depends on what your definition of a start is too.
Yeah. And just because I am not against not working with horses who are not ready to be started yet, but getting on them, that's a moral debate. There's a photo that I see particularly on Facebook that goes around every now and then, and it's a picture of the skeletal system of the horse. Okay. And they made like a little legend at the bottom, and they colored different colors of all the bones to kind of give a visual demonstration.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
When the certain bones are like fused and developed, and some of them aren't fused until 6, 7. Yeah. I always feel like when that photo goes around, I'm always like, yes, I think it's so great that people are kind of giving, like, I think a lot of people, some people are ignorant, some people don't care about horses, and they're just trying to get them as broke as possible so that they can make money. There is a corner of the world that is rare. Like that. But I also think there's a lot of people who just don't know, and that's what their family
grandpa did it, and so they just do it. And how do you change a perception if you don't know?
And I think in a lot of ways, like, yes, it's important to be pissed off about this kind of stuff, because it ruins horses, it messes them up. But I also think try and look at it as an opportunity to educate people, like that diagram of the skeletal system.
Yeah, because it's usually in the legs. It's where it's 6, 7.
Yeah.
No, don't do it. I thought of it too.
But I think those are really great opportunities. I think it's so important that we have educational resources and diagrams that are really easy to see and understand, so that the layman person can be like, oh, well, if my horse's hocks aren't developed until they're 3 or 4, maybe I shouldn't be doing sliding stops. And I feel like that will start to make more sense to people. But unless we're like, we can just choose to judge from a side and, you know, be like, oh, this person's a piece of shit. Or we can be like, hey, let's share this diagram. And
and
maybe
also
people will
remembering when you're sharing information, not doing it in a condescending way and in a kind way, because people are just, they don't know what they don't know. And for anyone listening, we try to share as much for resources that are free. Some are paid, but a lot of them are free. So please just check out our stuff, and you can kind of find some diagrams, for example, on the digestive system. Yeah,
especially if you're listening to this stuff or you hear people's confessions and you're like, oh, maybe I'm one of those people that they're talking shit about. Again, the importance of this segment is just about education and bringing light to certain things. And
different perspectives.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Also kind of in the similar department. This person says, just because you can get on a 2-year-old doesn't mean you should. Their bodies are not ready. It's straining for their ligaments and tendons, and their muscles aren't developed enough. Their brains also need more time to figure it out.
I think we talked about this to explain our perspective on that. So I don't think we need to add too much.
Yeah. This one seems a little bit more like hard set on don't ride 2-year-olds at all, which I'm kind of like
iffy on.
Which that's your perspective. That's me. That's whatever. So I think we said our piece on how we feel about that. So,
oh no, I've just read the next one a little bit.
We told luck. You guys we were bringing this.
Here you go.
This is freaking gold. Okay, buckle up. This one is kind of savage. Arabs are the worst breed of horse, period. Their breeding has gone off the charts. They're starting to look ugly, and they have no brains. I am unsure why anyone would want them. First of all, damn.
Yeah, they have a very big opinion on Arabs.
Damn.
So, Arabs, for me, personally, are not my favorite. I do think some of the breeding has gotten a little out of whack especially when it comes to the I don't want to say wonky face,
the dish face.
Yeah. I think the dish has become a little exaggerated for sure, and it's a trait that is attempting to be exaggerated. I feel like I'm in the hot seat. I feel like I've been told that I've said this, but it wasn't me.
This wasn't us.
It was not
This was
me.
One of you.
I don't think they are ugly. I just think that it's a little exaggerated.
Well, you don't have to be attracted to everything.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I'd agree they have no brains. I think they are very smart, most of them.
Yeah.
I just think sometimes they're very hot-headed and they're flighty. And so what that means is you have to have the right person who's with them. Me, I am not the right person because I will get frustrated with that type of behavior to an extent. So it's just, I wouldn't work well with them. However, I don't believe that they have no brain. I think they are very, very smart, which is probably part of the problem.
Yeah, they just have a different kind of brain.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not an Arab person. I think they're neat, and
same.
What I really like about Arabs and what I think is one of the cooler parts about them is like you can pick one out from a mile away.
Oh yeah,
like you go to a horse show and
the way they move,
they're very distinct, they're very prominent, and I think there's something respectable about that.
Yeah.
They're one of the oldest breeds out there.
Yes.
So they have a lot of, I think, the common favorite breeds that are modern have a lot of Arab influence, and I think that's something important to point out. But yeah, for what I do, I don't really have a draw or desire. I've worked with quite a few Arabs. I have one coming in for training a part Arab today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
But you do have to be, I like what you said, you have to have a certain kind of personality. You have to be pretty calm in demeanor, and I feel like you have to have a good sense of humor because
Yes.
they are dramatic as hell.
That's the thing. It's kind of like when you have like, I'm sorry, girls. When there's that really dramatic like girlfriend you have that you're just like, oh my God, everything's a crisis, everything's an emergency, everything's falling apart. And they have the boyfriend who's just like,
A piece of shit.
whatever.
Or, oh no, the chill one. Never mind.
No, I'm saying a good relationship where he's just like, you know, and she's
The yin and yang.
sets him and he sets her up for success because he allows her to be that way, and not get frustrated with her, and then solves the problem. You kind of have to be the same with the Arab. Let them have their big flare, and then be like, all right, can we work through this now?
Yeah,
and then go. And I am not that person.
Yeah. Also, what I notice about most Arab owners is they're funny as hell.
Oh yeah, they are.
They've got the
they're
best
quirky.
they're quirky. They have the best sense of humor.
Just like the horse, quirky.
Well, I think you have to be like, my horse is being an idiot right now. This is hilarious. You know?
Yeah, because otherwise you'll cry.
Yeah.
But I do think they're very smart, and I think that's why they get that reputation of being dumb, because they're like just so.
And I think their like sensitivity to the universe is like
times
horse is
a million.
Already sensitive, but I think theirs is just like ding ding ding, couple more
amped
notches.
Up. Yeah. I agree.
So, you definitely have to have a particular touch and be a specific person to have Arabs, and I respect them, but they're not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next one. This person says, Rainers are doing too much work on too young of horses. Sliding, stopping abruptly, and excessive ligament work makes it so many of these horses have major problems very young and have to be retired. If you just waited a bit longer, it would be so much better, man. Like, come on.
I agree.
I think we kind of talked about this with the 2-year-olds and stuff. And I think it's hard. I'm not super involved in the reining world, so I mean, I can't personally confirm. I'm sure there's some people out there who are, using and abusing horses. I think like there's that in every single world, but I think reiners, especially with the physical maneuvers and the movements that they do, I think it is important to kind of put a little bit of a spotlight on them, because sliding stops and spins, those are really hard on joints and ligaments. And when you're having things like 2 and 3 and 4-year-old futurities and you're expecting horses to be finished in
at
those
that point,
it's I don't know. I don't want to be that person that says it, but also I get where this person is coming from. Absolutely.
I also think that the industry as its own puts pressure on people who want to do reining to do it to young horses. Yeah. Because they kind of put you in this fraternities, right? Yeah. And I think it's something I have a personal experience with a horse like that I worked with years and years ago, actually now, who was 5 years old, and it came to the camp I worked at with blown ligaments, and it was 5. A beautiful, lovely horse, and it could never do anything but maybe trails every now and then for the rest of its life at 5, because it had been started at 1 and showing at 2. And I think that's too much. Yeah. And on a body perspective, like, it's too much. And feel free to come for me, because I'll come for you too.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember what episode that we kind of talked about this on, where we were like there's all these incentives to have these 2 and 3 and 4-year-old futurities, and we were kind of talking about what is the underlying motive for that. Yeah. And it's, I think, money.
It is.
The faster you get these horses finished and broke, the less money you've lost taking care of it and feeding it, and
they're making money faster.
Yeah. And I think the horse world as a whole, I think
slowing down is good.
Yeah. And just kind of, I don't know.
I think recognizing that horses live a while, and if you can give them a good start, that's maybe slower, and you're not going to be in the 2-year-old fraternity, but you can go into the 4. You know, maybe that horse you can now use for 10 years instead of 3.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
And like, who do we call out to get these things changed?
Yep.
Let us know in the submissions, please, listeners, if you know. Like, who is responsible for this? Like, is it
I think it's just the organizations as a whole.
Yeah, and
that's hard.
It's hard.
You can't just change that with one person.
Yeah,
you know, it has to be, and it's going to be slow, and it's going to be a slow change.
Yeah.
If you look at any revolution on anything, it's slow change.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's another rabbit hole conversation of, you know, who's deciding these things, and can we do something about it? Probably. Should we be doing something about it? Probably. Who's doing it though?
Yep.
You know, like,
and who's doing it in a respectful way?
Yeah,
that's important too.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right.
Last one of this section. This person says, your horse doesn't need more supplements. It needs better management. Their top line is shallow, but you haven't worked them a lot? ? It doesn't mean they need to be overdosed on protein. It means they need to be worked with targeted exercises. Because muscle requires resistance to grow. They also don't need electrolytes every day. I'm looking at you, barrel racers.
With a lot of exclamation points.
6 exclamation points. Yeah, we talked about this not too long ago, the electrolytes one.
Yeah.
If you feed your horse electrolytes consistently, then your body stops producing
it very well, yeah.
And then also back to our gut health podcast, if you haven't listened to that, grain-based diets and supplement-based diets have been scientifically shown shown that it predisposes your horse to ulcers
and other gut problems. Forage first.
Yeah. And this person, I mean, I agree, it's all about how you're moving, and like, yeah, if your horse needs a little bit of extra stuff, doesn't need to be everything in the kitchen sink. And what's hard is, like, you go to the tack store, you go to wherever, and you walk down the supplement aisle, and it's like, there's supplements for, like,
everything.
Left elbow development. There's supplements for right butt cheek development. There's supplements
for hair and cuticle.
Yeah, there's herbs so that your horse, like, has less anxiety. There's this and there's that, and like, it's kind of crazy.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Well, okay. You probably have a way more educated perspective than me, so please take this.
So supplements are really good at something we call fear-mongering. And fear-mongering is basically suggesting to you to panic that you're not doing enough. You're not being a better owner. You're not doing enough for your horse. And I'm here to tell you that most of the supplements that do that, most of the supplements that are on those shelves are useless to you. Truly. Because horses, they're very good at getting what they need. There are certain things, yeah, for sure, to help them out in certain areas. Like if you are here...
Selenium and vitamin
E. I was just going to say, like, it depends on your climate. But psyllium is something that you have to be very careful of causing overdoses on. So here we don't see as much of an issue. And we don't hear as much of the supplementation of psyllium. But if you go into, Ontario or even just like other regions that are similar in climate, you'll hear a lot more about psyllium and people adding it to it. And psyllium can be very toxic if you add too much and cause actually more problems, especially with like the laminae in your horse. So you could be actually causing more issues by adding those. The other thing is a lot of the supplements, your horse pees out. Any of like the excesses, it usually just pees it out. So are you actually giving them more, or is it just being wasted in their urea? So it's like those little things. I do believe that we should have high protein. I do believe we should have high fiber. But I don't think those are mutually exclusive. If you don't have high fiber, you shouldn't have high protein. And if you don't have high protein, you shouldn't have, you should still have high fiber because high fiber helps keep things moving. But fiber is seen in a lot more of forage and having like those kind of things. But if you're just using this white powder that has all these vitamins, that's not fiber.
You could be feeding your horse cocaine. It's barrel racers. Your horses don't need more spice.
No. And especially with the electrolyte thing, we had talked about this privately. I don't think we did on the podcast, but we had chatted about it because I see it a lot. And because they called out barrel racers, I'm going to use you guys. You guys use a lot of electrolytes. And I understand where the intention is behind this. You're like, well, they're running really fast for like 30 seconds. And so they're going to get really dehydrated really fast. And that's not really how that works. And on top of it, you're actually making it so that they can't produce it as easily because you're just giving always this access to it. And so if anything, it can actually help with causing more problems with dehydration later down the line. And so my recommendation in the sense of like when I've ever used electrolytes, I use it for trailering just because I know that they may not be sucking back water as much. And I do it a couple days before I go to trailer, not the day I'm trailering, because electrolytes make you thirsty. And then if I'm like, oh, okay, here you go, and you also don't have as much access to water, I'm actually causing more harm in some regards. So it's one of those things that we think we're doing something good for our horse, and instead we're actually causing more impact. And I think that marketing has become way too good at telling us we suck and what we're failing our horse.
And then, but here is the supplement that solves all of your problems.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're just trying to get you to spend money. That's what it is. It truly is they're trying to make you spend money. And there's obviously always times where there's things that need to be done.
Yeah. But I think that's a conversation between you and your veterinarian or your nutritionist. Exactly.
Yeah.
Rather than you just going to the feed store and being like, oh, my horse's top line doesn't look great. Let's buy this top line supplement from here this Bucky's shop and give them 3 scoops of it. And
not knowing what's in it, because half of the supplements out there is just sugar.
Placebo effect.
It'll have a little bit of stuff and sugar. I'm gonna say one about omegas. Omega-3 supplements, half the time there's all of these supplements that are like they're going to give you all the omega-6 or all the omega-3, and usually it barely gives you any. It just makes you think because you don't know how to read the analysis. And that's not on you because you don't know that, but it's something that you should be aware of, that is a marketing tactic, that they suggest things.
And they use certain words like omegas. And
yes,
with that, there was a big... Okay, we might get a little bit controversial here.
We're already controversial.
It's fine. There was a big push a couple years ago, a big hype about hemp oil.
Yes.
That got really, really popular. And I think hemp oil is really high in...
omega-6.
And omega-6, like when you look for an oil, you have something with omegas, you want it to be balanced in all of them. But omega-6 has got inflammatory properties. So... I heard a lot of people were feeding the shit out of their horses with hemp oil, and then they were having some soreness issues, or they were having inflammation in places that didn't really have before.
Or make sense.
Yeah. So I just think little things like that. It's easy to get caught up in a fad or be like, oh, everyone's feeding this, so I must be on it too. Or, companies are designed to market to you, and they want you to buy their stuff, whether or not you need it or not. They're going to try and convince you that you do. And unfortunately, your horse is always the one that pays the price. So I think with this one, if you are one of those people who's like, I've got 12 supplements and they all sound like they're going to do good things, like no beef on that. Yeah, like of course you have good intentions and you want to help your horse out, but I think that's a conversation between you and your vet, or you and your equine nutritionist, to actually know what your horse needs. Okay, this next category.
Oh, this is the one I get?
I'm so sorry. This one is wild. So this next category is based on rider responsibility and weight.
Okay, just remember, everybody, these are not my opinions.
They're
These
not
are
mine
not
either.
my opinion.
They're not us.
I am reading them,
Uncinched
and I will
did
tell
not
you my
say
opinion after. But don't come for me, because especially this one I just read is definitely not my opinion. Okay, all right. Whew, okay. Anyone over 200 pounds should not be riding. You are too heavy and ruining your horse's body and joints. I do not believe this. I strongly disagree. Strongly. What about you?
Yeah.
I think this is some TikTok tween.
Yeah.
Men just in general are usually
Yeah.
200 pounds or heavier.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair. And I think it's a generalization of your assumption of what a healthy body looks like. And I think if you're 5 foot total, like, or 4'11", 5 foot, 200 pounds might be heavy
To
for
you.
that person,
Yeah.
or to you, or to that body
But
frame.
if you're 5'11" and you just have regular
muscle. Yep.
you're gonna be close to 200 pounds.
Yep. And I won't be ashamed to admit I'm closer to the 200 than I am to the 100.
Same.
So it's one of those things. I think it definitely matters about your body configuration, your height, your muscle density, so many other factors than just calling someone basically overweight.
Also, this is my hot take. I think an unbalanced 110-pound rider can do way more damage on a horse in comparison to a balanced, educated 200-pound rider.
Yep, 100%.
I think it's all about how you do things, how you carry yourself, where your center of gravity is, your position, your method, your timing, your feel. And like, yes, you should be on a horse that's an appropriate size for you. But also, I don't think people really recognize how strong horses actually are.
Yep.
Someone had done a study based on this theory. Like, they were basically saying heavy people should be riding draft horses or draft crosses. And that was the theory, was heavier people should be riding heavier set horses so that they like match each other, which in theory sounds legit.
Yeah.
But what they actually found was the heavy draft horse types, their bone density was designed to pull,
Yes.
not to carry or bear weight on their backs. So it actually was proven that smaller horses that were designed for riding were actually better long-term, like joint and physically, for heavy riders in comparison to the draft types.
That makes sense.
Which I thought was very interesting. And for the person who submitted this, I would recommend maybe taking a look at
We'll see if we can find it and add it.
Yeah.
We'll look
try
if
and
we can
post
get it. Yeah.
But I think this is a interesting take, and I strongly disagree with it. I mean, have you seen a man? This is like completely exiles all men from riding.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
anyone like Evan, he's 6'2", and he's
not a chunky guy.
no,
he's a lean
he's
man.
over 200.
Yeah.
And he's very lean and he's very strong. You would never be like, oh, that man's overweight.
Yeah, he should not be on a horse.
Yeah, it just exiles, and I think it's your fat phobia. That's what I think it is. Yep. All right. The 20% rule is bogus and doesn't account for fitness level of the horse or rider. Okay, for anybody who doesn't know what the 20% rule is, I'm just going to quickly explain that. So the idea behind the 20% rule is that you shouldn't be above 20% of the horse's total weight. So basically, if the horse is like 1,200 pounds, you should only be at max 20% of that weight for your own weight. So just so anybody, if they're not like, what does that mean? That's what that's implying.
Yes. I don't know. This is, again, another one. Is it bogus? This is just an opinion. I
think what they might be implying, and obviously this is just what I'm reading out of it, I don't know what this person is implying, but is that they're saying that like you can be over the 20% rule if your fitness level of your horse is better or you are better. And same for vice versa. You can be lighter and causing more harm. I think that's kind of where the implication is. That's what I'm reading from it anyways.
Yeah.
And I think I would agree with that, because I do think that you can be a little bit heavier, but if you're using your muscles better, like dead weight is different than moving weight. Like imagine when you have your toddler, or if you have kids, or if you've been around kids, you know, when you're carrying them when they're asleep and how dead they are, and you're like, my God, how did you get so heavy, versus when they're moving around and they're actively holding their own muscles. It's a very different level, even though it's the exact same infant or weight. It's just the way it's distributed it based on the muscle tension.
Yeah. I think everything is so situational and it's hard to be like, this is the weight limit of all horses. If you are 1 pound heavier than the weight limit, that horse is going to explode and die. Like, I think that's how some people kind of handle it. And, okay, TikTok, if you're listening to this and you're a TikTok, specifically the 14-year-old age category of TikTok, y'all are so freaking mean to people. Where I see a lot of people are like weight Nazis is on TikTok. Someone will post a video of them riding, and someone will literally, like, comments will be filled. Like, as soon as I see someone riding on TikTok, I no guilt here. My guilty pleasure is like reading the comments and be like, how mean are people being today?
And then she'll send it to me.
Yeah, I'm like, look what these bitches are saying. They're 14. It's crazy.
And I do believe the people who comment things like that, it's because they feel bad about themselves and they're projecting.
Yeah.
Or they've heard things that aren't accurate.
But it's always like, if there's anyone who isn't an absolute skinny rail, that there is guaranteed a comment in there. Like, I would put money on every single time. Like, I'd probably be rich if you could gamble on this stuff. But there is always someone, and they're 14, 12.
And they're way too young to be saying these things. And it's coming from a place of hate, and it's unfortunate.
And a place of lack of knowledge and stupidity and all the things. But that is like the number one thing that I see on the internet of people.
Especially TikTok. Yeah,
TikTok. Like, why are you guys so rude? Why are you so mean?
Yeah, there's no need.
So if you're looking for a hobby, or if you don't believe me, go get onto the 14-year-old equestrian TikTok world.
Yeah, they're fat shamers.
And you will see there is every kind of shamers on there, but especially fat shaming, which is terrible.
Heavy riders, and I mean really heavy riders who are unbalanced and in general unaware of their riding habits, should not be allowed to mount any size horse. As much as it is an unpopular opinion, this should also apply to assisted therapeutic riding. It not only breaks the horse, it is so unsafe for the rider. It's simply naive to assume that sidewalkers would be able to catch and safely dismount a 150-pound unabled body. Ooh, this is a big one. I'm going to let you start that one. Good luck.
I see the point. Especially in the, like, I mean, I know how I felt when I first got on a horse. You are really tippy and you don't know what muscles to use. And then when you do have an excess amount of weight, momentum tends to shift a little bit. Like, that's just a fact, right? No, I got some love on me. So no judgment here. I'm not fat shaming anybody, but yeah, I see the point. And especially with the therapeutic assisted riding, I've done some work with therapeutic riding, and you know, when you do have mobility disabilities or cognitive disabilities, sometimes the understanding of like where your body is supposed to go is already hard riding horses in general, let alone when you do have a disability. And yeah, to put that pressure on a sidewalker to catch the person, or for the horse to take and carry that, like, I see your point. I do see your point.
I think there is a validity to some of it. However, on the coin flip of it, you know, my other thought is like, if this is something somebody's passionate about and they're learning and they're gaining fitness through riding, they will lose weight naturally because they are using different muscles and they're going to tone them, and it will lengthen them and naturally just give them a trimmer look, and then also hone their skills for balance. As for the therapeutic riding, I do understand the point too, where it's like saying that, you know, if something goes wrong, that sidewalker can't necessarily help as much as you think they can. On the same boat, I think it doesn't matter about the weight necessarily. It goes for all of that. You know, you're kind of, as a sidewalker, there's only so much you can do when anything goes wrong.
Absolutely. And again, kind of back to, there's a huge difference. Like, I would personally prefer a 200-pound plus balanced rider versus a under 150 unbalanced rider. And yeah, just because you're heavy, like maybe if you're trying to consider the horse, but if this is someone's passion, you can find compromises in everything, right? Okay, well, maybe you can only ride for 15 minutes out of respect of the horse if it is at that level, right? These are spicy. We told you guys they're spicy, but there's some of them I'm like, I don't even know
how to answer.
There's so many sides
to this coin.
Yeah.
Yep. If you're new to horses, or if you're an adult re-rider, spend whatever budget you think you have for a horse on your own on lessons with a reputable trainer instead.
Yeah, I think what this person is trying to say, instead of spending $50,000 on a well-trained horse, spend $5,000 and then spend $45,000 on lessons with a trainer. That's the vibe I'm getting.
See, I didn't get that. I got that, like, whatever budget you have for your own horse, spend that on lessons instead. Like, go get lessons instead of buying a horse. That's what I got from it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah. No, that is kind of the wording of it.
I think if you're new to horses, congratulations, welcome to the community. I want you to feel welcomed. However, on the same token, I think there is due diligence that needs to be done where you are setting yourself up for success in the sport, and also setting yourself up so you aren't ridiculed. Because I'm sorry, and this is going to be controversial, I know it is, but you're not ready to own a horse if you've never done it before. And you just took a couple lessons and now you think you're ready. You're not. That's full stop. You are not ready. And I'm not saying that to be mean, and I'm not saying that to say you shouldn't ever be ready. I'm saying that you need to do a lot more background to be at that point. Taking 2 lessons or taking a week's worth of lessons does not give you the knowledge base. And I want to be very clear, the knowledge base to own a horse. It does not give you the financial clarity of what a horse costs. It does not give you the amount of responsibilities that actually are involved with owning a horse. Because half the time lesson programs, you're tacked already. So all of a sudden, all of those little aspects, you don't have any insight to.
And what are you doing in the average lesson? You are specifically learning how to ride. You can ride a horse and know how to do that.
Yep.
But it's the husbandry, the taking
the
care
knowledge.
of it. It's all, there's so many other pieces to horse ownership that, you know, you could get yourself or your horse in trouble.
And that's more, and that, like I said, I'm not trying to say you should never own a horse. I'm saying there's a lot of steps that you need to take without having a horse to start getting it. And you shouldn't be learning it once you get the horse. And I think that's why so many people run into, you know, injury, huge injuries, and then also who run into financial cost problems because you don't understand all of the aspects that you're actually walking into. You just see it as, I get to ride. Yeah. And that's not what horse ownership is.
And I'm a first generation cowgirl. We didn't get into horses until I started riding, and we bought horses way too naively. And as a result of that, A, we bought the wrong horses for our skill levels, and B, we had to learn a lot of things the hard way, and I had to get bucked up. I had to break my ribs. I had to learn everything the absolute hard way. And I know me, as someone who now teaches lessons to people, one of the first things that I ask people who inquire is like, okay, you don't own a horse. Is that something you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you're not going to be buying a horse in the next 6 months, in the next year. But if that's the case and that's something that you're interested in, it's important that you have a conversation when you're looking for places to ride at on, okay, are you just a lesson riding instructor? Or are you actually going to teach me about horse husbandry? Because there is a very big difference, and learning how to ride, there's nothing wrong with that. If you love riding lessons, hell yeah, brother. But there is so much more to horse ownership than just riding. Riding, there's a pie chart somewhere, and it's like the reality of horse ownership. And
it's like this
sliver is riding. The rest of it is
everything else.
And there is so many things to know. And
this is not to discourage you from ever trying to get a horse.
No.
It's just about you making sure that you know there are other aspects that you have to find avenues to learn to do it.
Yeah. And the reality is, and like, again, I speak from personal experience, when you don't know those things, your horse pays the price. And I know for a fact, if you love riding, you're going to love the hell out of your first horse. Every person does. Oh,
of course.
And so out of love and respect for that horse that is hopefully in your future, take the extra time to learn everything and feel over prepared. Lease a horse.
Yes.
Give yourself some stepping stones towards it, so you're not just all of a sudden in charge of a life that can. Horses they're like chickens. They're vulnerable creatures.
Yeah.
You know?
And they like to hurt themselves.
They love to hurt themselves. And it's really stressful and crappy to have to learn things
on the fly.
Like a chicken.
Yeah. That's our perspective.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Okay. Anyone wanting to breed or to keep intact studs should have to get a license, and studs should be brought up in herd environments. If you don't have the knowledge, facilities, or monies to make it happen safely, you shouldn't have stallions. I don't disagree. I don't fully agree. Especially when I see the studs should be brought up in herd environments, I feel like, okay, this may sound weird, but some studs will be able to do that, and other studs just won't. It's just the way, the testosterone flies. I don't know what the right word is, but I'm not saying that you shouldn't try. But I am saying that it doesn't necessarily work for every single one. I think it's a blanket statement to say that. Mm-hmm. But I do think you should be teaching them manners. I do think you should be teaching them how to handle themselves. I do think they should be safe to be around. I think it's stupid if they're not, because that's not fair to anybody. Not the handlers, not your vet who might be having to deal with that stallion for breeding season. It's not fair to, the other geldings or horses that might be in the same vicinity, not in the same pasture or stuff like that if they have a problem that way, but in the same vicinity. And I also think if you do have a stallion that is a problematic stallion, snipper, even if they have really great lines, or if you're really against doing that, don't bring them anywhere. Do not think that because you have a stud that you're allowed to buck the rules, because I have seen that happen. It's so dangerous. I had it happen last year. I had brought a mare with me to an event, and a stud was in the same area that had no manners. and was trying to actively get to that mare, and we had to switch barns because it was a problem. And that's not fair to me or that mare, because you brought them in an environment and you were chuckling like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a stud. What do you expect? No, I expect you to bring something with manners. And if you're not going to, don't bring it.
The license comment is kind of interesting. That's such a hard one. I don't know. I kind of agree. Like, I feel like having to have a license makes the legit people who actually care about their studs and are wanting to make a real business out of this. I think having a license kind of would really help kind of
level them up.
Yeah, level it up, and then also like weed out the people who are the willy-nilliers.
Yeah.
and that's a hard one, because people, like, I understand also about licenses being kind of a controversial thing, but I don't know. I think if you actually want to have a legit breeding farm,
I think you should go through those right hoops.
Yeah, I think making it like a little bit extra harder, it will weed out the wrong people, and the responsible people who are actually going to put in the initiative and effort are going to go out and get a license.
All right. I think it should be standard at lesson barns to not just teach riding. Some lessons should be riding, and other lessons should be about how to take care of the horse, how to saddle fit, how to read body language, etc. We just talked about this.
Yeah.
Yes, we agree.
Yeah.
Because then it at least sets people up, if they do want a horse, that they actually know what they're looking at too. So it sets people up for success, and also makes you really appreciate all the work that maybe your trainer's doing behind the scenes for you, you know, and making sure those things are done. The only argument I will have with this is I think it goes back to that kind of licensing thing that we talk about with stallions. There are lesson programs that are run by people who should not be giving lessons. And so then teaching people maybe the wrong things. So I think that's the only thing I would say. But again, it's about finding reputable people. And that's part of your due diligence too, as somebody coming into the industry, finding people who have a good reputation and who have a good standing within the community. But it can be hard when you're new.
It can be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree with this one. I personally would love to see more horse riding programs be like this, because there's so many, like, okay, jump lessons, get a 6-week program, and like there is a need for that, and that's excellent and awesome. No beef with that, but I have yet to really see very many. Like, I've maybe seen a couple clinics here and there, which awesome, but to see like actual full running programs where it's like, okay, first time horse owners come into the program for 6 months, and there is like a regimented.
Maybe we create one.
Yeah, maybe we should.
I think, okay. If
Big brain.
I think we'll do that. We'll need to work. I think we're gonna try and create something like that. Maybe like a clinic series.
Yeah.
Online maybe to help
horse ownership 101.
Yeah, just kind of setting you up. And that doesn't mean go buy a horse and start doing the clinic with us. I'm more just saying, like, you can audit.
Yeah, you can come and learn.
Yeah. I think we're gonna do something like that. We're gonna try and set that up for you guys.
For submitting. But yeah, I think there is a huge need for that. And what is super exciting, I personally think that the horse world is becoming bigger and more popular thanks to the Yellowstone era. And there's so many people who want to get involved into it, but there is a bit of a disconnect from
the Yellowstone verse of like horses are just like
and then
that.
Actual horse people, and there's a lot of horse people who are like, oh, look at all those yuppies, they're wannabe, look at those girls in white cowboy boots. But I don't know, I feel like if this is our time to take advantage of it, and
and grow it.
More people want to get involved in horses. Like, horses,
that's
are cool
amazing.
As hell. Why can't we make it more accessible in a safe,
inclusive way?
Inclusive, and responsible way.
Next, training, breeds, and beliefs.
Oh, shit. Okay, I'm on this one. Okay, this one that looks funny. Okay, this person says, just because someone knows a lot about the theory behind horses doesn't mean they know shit when it comes to the hands-on side. Yeah. Know-it-all-itis, man. She's a pandemic. It's crazy. There's this saying, and it's basically like people who know a little bit of information, or they get one little tidbit of information, they have to tell freaking everybody, and they're the first one to be pointing fingers, calling people out, whereas people who actually are knowledgeable and wise, they just kind of sit back and let people do their thing. And I don't know, that just made me think of that.
I think also it's one of those things, like, I equate it to like the brainiacs at university. I saw a lot of people who were very, very good at exams. Very good at exams.
Yeah.
And then they went out in practice and they sucked.
Yeah, smart versus street smart.
Yeah, and I think you need a little bit of both when it comes to horses. You do need to know theory. There is a true importance of knowing kind of where the horse comes from, the systems, all of those things. I am very much a nerd that way. However, at the same time, if you've never interacted with a horse, but you know everything in the encyclopedia about a horse, you don't know anything about horses. I'm sorry, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Street smart versus book smart, and being a horse person, you got to be a little bit of both. Mm-hmm. And you got to be adaptable, and also know that, yes, there is theory.
It doesn't always follow that route.
No,
though.
One of the things that I talk about all the time in lessons, okay, for example, like basic maneuvers like turn on the forehand or side passing. There is a basic formula. You know, you put your leg on, you move your hand here, you sit on a certain seat bone. Mm-hmm. And yes, you could be doing all of those things.
Theory.
That's the theory. But a lot of the times, especially if you're riding a green horse or you don't do it very often, you can do all of those things. But if your horse isn't used to being asked that way, so many people be like, well, I did A plus B and it did not equal C. Well, okay. There's theory behind things, but then there's also reality. And you apply the theory, and then based on the results you get back from the theory, then you make adjustments to your request. And I think a lot of people forget that. They're like, oh, well, this always matters, or this always turns into this. Well, not really. There's so many factors to every single situation. And as horse handlers, horse people, whatever the fuck you want to call us, that is like a telltale sign of someone who really hasn't spent a lot of time with horses is,
this is the only option.
And that's so not the case. Mm-hmm. People always ask me, Jay, what are you doing with such a big horse? Why did you want such a big horse? Simple answer, I'm not sure. It was just in my heart, and your heart knows what it wants. Knowing how far he's come since I got him, knowing where he'll be in a year, and getting through this teenage years is the journey. Learning together and figuring each other out is all the fun. Also, having a community to share the journey with and help along the way makes it 1,000 times better. I think that's a good outlook. Yep. I think in a lot of ways, like, if you go out and you purchase a horse and we kind of talked about this in our horse sales thing. When you have a certain look or a certain kind of horse, or you fall in love with the horse that maybe doesn't have the training level that matches you, it's really important to kind of lessen or
find people.
Yeah. And take away the expectations of what you're going to be doing, and also eliminate the timeline. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a little bit of a greener rider and the horse is a little bit greener, it's just going to take it's going to take a longer time for things to happen.
Yep.
And I think you do have a really good, attitude about it. It's about the journey, and you guys are learning together and figuring it out. And it sounds like you have a community of people who are behind you. So if you feel safe and comfortable, that's number one. Okay, this next person says,
I know who this is.
Hancocks are not bronchi if you do the right steps and set them up with their horsemanship and riding journey.
I think we all know who this is. Not going to call you out, but there was an episode we did with this guest.
I hope it's her or them. Oops. Yeah, this is, I think a lot. I mean, back to the Arabians.
Yeah.
This kind of same vibes. Like, you can totally be like, I'm never riding a Hancock, but I mean, for some people, they just jive with those kind of horses.
Me. I would agree with this statement to an extent. I think Hancocks are bronchi in the wrong hands. I think that Hancocks, I personally have one, and I have worked with a few, and what I have learned, and this is just my own personal experience, and you may have a differing viewpoint, but this is just from what I've viewed, they are a horse that needs to be able to question. It doesn't mean they need to be able to be in charge, but they have to be able to ask the question and have you give them that time to ask and say, no, you're good, or no, you're right, or whatever the answer is in that moment, and then move past. But if you're like, you're not going to ask me anything, and you're going to dictate what's happening, yeah, a Hancock's going to be a handful for you.
I find Hancocks really don't like you telling them or making them to do stuff.
Yeah, and I find that they take a lot longer. They're harder minded if you do it that way. For example, I have Rumor, and Rumor, he's a good boy, but he does have questions sometimes. And if I had an issue with Farrier a long time ago, he had just started getting farriered, so he wasn't really certain of everything, and he kind of pulled his foot away and then got immediately very harshly punished. It wasn't just like, oh no, come back, and then he would have been fine. But then he escalated, and he continued to escalate, and so him and that farrier were basically in a pissing contest.
Yeah,
and it could become very dangerous very fast.
Yeah,
and I immediately switched farriers because I knew that wasn't going to work. If you give him that moment to be like, I don't know, and then you just grab it again, he has no issue. But if you start to get really big, he'll get big back.
Yeah. This kind of I would have a similar answer to the Arabian thing. They have a different mind.
Yep.
They have a different mind, and they're very much, if you go in looking for a fight, they're gonna match you.
Yeah.
They'll match you with intensity, and if they're at a 8 of FU, you have to be, instead of a 9 of FU, you have to be at a 9 of let's figure this out together.
We're a partner.
We're partners. And I find once you kind of gain a Hancock horse respect, they are some of the coolest horses, especially in the quarter horse realm,
because they
in my
work
opinion.
with you.
Yeah. So I agree with the statement. I don't think they're bronchi. I think they have a very different mind frame, and you have to be a horseman to really work with them and work with them well. Okay, last one in this section. I'm tired of the hate towards mares. I am frankly sick of it, and I feel it's a reflection on internal misogyny. Oof. And because people get set in the idea that a mare is a bitch or just hormonal, they stop trying to help her when she might be having a real problem that makes her act up. This is a huge problem.
I would not disagree with this, because I do see it a lot on the bodywork side where they're like, oh, they're just a mare, that's why they do that. I'm like, or it looks to me like something's going on in that shoulder. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in stereotyping our horse. Yeah.
And I heard a perspective, and I thought that it was interesting. So obviously we don't spay horses because that is a lot. But normally our comparison of males to females is mares versus geldings. And geldings are usually, they lose their hormones when they're weaned, kind of around a weanling to a year old. So they don't ever get those hormones, and therefore they don't get those like personality like
shifts.
Hormonal or the like intensity. Whereas like a mare could be arguably compared to a stallion, and they have all of their hormones. They haven't had their reproductive organs taken away. So I feel like handling a mare, especially certain kinds of mares, can be kind of looked at as a parallel to working with a stallion. Yeah. And we all know how people feel about working with stallions. They're more opinionated. You have to be more refined. You have to be careful. And I think people assume that you can handle a mare similar to a gelding, and some mares,
that's a good point.
You absolutely can. But I also think people forget that you're dealing with an animal that has all of its hormones, its cycles, it's doing all of these things. And stallions always get a pass, but mares don't.
No, that's actually a good point. I've never thought of it that way. I think that's an important distinction to make. And I think it's a good insight to think of it that way. Gelding is not the equivalent to a mare. Mare is more equivalent to a stallion. And so making those different distinctions, I think, is important. And I've never even thought about it that way. And I think that's a good reflection point to have.
And to bring up the misogyny piece, you know, why are we comparing them to a creature who does not have the same hormones or a cycle or any of those things? And most horses in general, if they are acting up and doing shitty things, we've talked about this, it's usually pain related. And there's a lot of mares out there who have reproductive organ issues, you know, ovarian cysts and
that we just don't see.
Yeah. And I mean, I love mares. I think you have a mare, if a mare gets bonded to you, there is like
a partner for life.
Nothing cooler than that. And it does make me upset when I hear that kind of stuff, because like if you've never had a good mare, or if you've never gained the respect of a mare and that's how you feel about them, that tells me a lot about who you are as a person and how you view horses in general. And I think the misogyny comment is spot on, because...
And we're applying the same theory to women all the time.
Yeah.
This like belief that if you are angry or if something is bothering you, instead of it just being, oh, something's bothering that person that day. Oh, she's on her period. Or, oh, she's just bitchy, you know. And I don't think that's right either. But that's like a total conversation for another day.
That's a rabbit hole. Totally.
All right. We're on to community and connection. This sounds very like, aw. I hope the questions reflect that. All right. You don't have to be doing a specific discipline or activity to enjoy horses. See? Okay, it was. Aw.
Yeah. It's not so political, controversial, and spooky and scary. Wow. Yes, I agree with this one. Last episode, someone said, like, horse riding for a lot of people is a hobby. And horses have such a magical way of getting you in the moment, especially in this day and age when we're so freaking addicted to our little computers in our pockets. Horses really require you to be present in the moment. And I think everybody needs something in their life that, if that's all the purpose is, I think that's a great purpose. But just being with each other and existing,
that's its own joy.
There's nothing wrong with that. I wish I could do that with my horses, but I made it my whole career.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. The horse and riding community is their own worst enemy. They are one of the biggest contributing factors to the overall death of the sport. Ooh, I would 100% agree with this, because I think we are such a judgmental community in many aspects. And that's something Taya and I have worked really, really hard, especially on this podcast, that we're hoping you can feel. We're not trying to create judgment or hard lines. Yeah. We're trying to show you the multifaceted world, how different everyone can be.
There's a spot for everybody, and how to do it.
Yeah. And I think that we've really fractured our community in many ways by creating too many distinctions between each other. Yeah. And causing a lot of, animosity towards each other of like, I'm better because I do English, or I'm better because I'm a reiner and you're just a lowly trail rider or whatever.
Or, and as someone who's first generation, I remember, like, this is over a decade ago, having a conversation with an alleged friend, and I am learning all of these things, whereas this person had been born and grown up with horses, so of course they had more of a baseline of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I still remember how I felt when I was 15 and this person saying to me, well, you weren't raised around horses, so you're not going to be able to get to that level.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
And it's comments like that, especially when you're a beginner, you're already insecure.
Yeah.
You're already feeling vulnerable. And then to have someone who is supposedly someone who you look up to make a comment or to discourage you.
Yeah.
It's awful. And I think we totally forget, it's easy to see someone and be like, yeah, they suck. Or, oh my God, they fall off every lesson. Like, what the hell are they doing? But do you not remember yourself? And I think so many of us get on our high horse. Yeah. And it's so easy to judge. But if we're not encouraging and remembering that in order to develop skills, you have to suck and you have to fail at something over and over and over again. I don't know where I'm going with this rabbit hole, but you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And I even feel that way. I grew up with horses in my life, my whole life. But even me with my family, I do feel like I'm seen as not knowing as much, even though I've taken probably the most extensive knowledge for it, but because I didn't necessarily be on the farm all the time and I wasn't actively in brandings and doing all these things all the time and part of it all the time. And I have felt a lot, even from my own kind of family, that they see me as the city kid who doesn't actually know things, which is kind of interesting because when I'm in the city, I'm seen very much as the country kid who knew all the things and grew up. And so I'm kind of in this weird Venn diagram of the middle. And I think
bring back Venn diagrams. I love Venn diagrams. I'm going to try and make
I am
more.
a Venn diagram. But yeah, I think it is important to see that distinction too, that even somebody who might have grown up with it, like myself, can still feel that way too. And I think that's because we have, as a community, made it too much of a soapbox to say that we've done it our whole lives, or
I know
our
more
family
than you.
has done it for 3 generations, and that's why we're allowed to be trainers, or that's why we have a right, that entitlement almost to the idea of being a horse person, entitlement to that title.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Rescues aren't owed free labor or donations, period. You chose to, quote, save, unquote, horses, so their labor and expenses are your responsibility. If you don't want that responsibility, then don't rescue so many horses. Also, most rescues probably shouldn't exist. Period.
Damn. Okay, this one kind of turns my cogs because
that's such an old person thing to say. I loved it though. I'm gonna say that now. This thing turns my cogs.
You know, I think we all love the idea of a rescue, and I think rescues all have great intentions, but I don't know if I've ever really thought about it from this perspective of, like, if you can't afford to be rescuing animals, are you really a rescue? That's turning my cogs.
I agree with this point of view because I have seen a lot of, I'm going to call them Facebook warriors of, like, I went to this auction and I've seen outright lies from it. Okay. I have come from a perspective in the sense of I help with some nonprofit horse groups, and one of them was at an auction, and basically where they were bidding on this horse to come into a lesson program for underprivileged children. Okay. So that's very key to the story. They were the ones bidding against this other person. And this other person is, quote unquote, a rescue. And so then that rescue ended up winning the bid. So, okay, great, whatever, it happens. On Facebook, they now are posting saying, I got this horse, I rescued it from the auction. It was going to go to a meat seller. So it's using all of these fear-mongering techniques
to get money,
to suggest that this was happening, when in fact they were bidding against a non-for-profit that was going to take on a horse to become in a riding program for underprivileged children.
and to have a good life.
And to have an actual accessible life. And they're now making it on Facebook, suggesting that this is the scenario that existed that wasn't true. And they don't know who was bidding against you. And that's the other thing that I see a lot of these so-called rescues are saying, I'm always bidding against meat bidders. You don't know that. You literally don't. It's very rare to actually know it's 100% a meat person. And so I think it's a very interesting where people just always are assuming that the worst person is the person next to them, you know, where you're like, there's the only option this horse was had at an auction is to go to meat. Well, that's not true. And I think rescues take advantage of that, of saying like, oh, I'm just going to do this. Now, can you care for this horse that I was taking away from a potential terrible situation
that I can't even afford,
and that I can't afford, and that I can't actually say 100% was the actual case that it was going to happen to. And I think that's where rescues get that kind of bad name, is because there's just all these people assuming the worst on everybody else's, or assuming the worst of an auction house, to be honest, and suggesting that that's going to happen, and using your fear and your compassion to get money, to take care of this horse so that they can say and feel good and pat themselves on the back. I did a great thing, whether or not it was, with your spending.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts. Like, I'm not saying legitimate rescues aren't good. And I'm not saying that rescuing horses isn't good. I am saying, though, that I do think people rely on other people's kindnesses and generosity as a means for a business. And I think that does not make you a business. It makes you a scam artist. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly never really, thought about it in this perspective, and now I'm like, oh shit, like it's a thing. And and just the sentence, if you can't afford, are you really rescuing them?
No.
Can you actually, if this horse is genuinely in malnourishment or poor condition, can you afford the
requirements that this horse has?
A ton of money to get that horse back in, or are you just getting it to your place? And like, I don't know how many rescues I've seen, but we don't have hay. Like, that is the bare minimum.
You shouldn't be taking on anything if you don't have the bare minimum. It's fine to ask for donations, so that way you can augment, but it shouldn't be so that you can run it. And so that you can take on that horse, because is that for the betterment? Is it truly going to be better?
Is it a rescue? No, it's just a halfway house.
Yeah, it's a halfway house. Yeah, I would say that, you don't get owed free labor, and you shouldn't have this indignant, if somebody doesn't give it to you, indignant of, oh, so you want this horse to die. Like, there's a lot of that too, and that's not fair. Your choices is not somebody else's emergency, and it's not somebody else's
responsibility to pay for your choices either. When going into this, if you obviously knew that you couldn't afford this horse, well,
that's on you.
That's on you. And you can't save every single animal. And I hate to say this too, but for a lot of animals, this is going to be so controversial, but euthanasia is often the most humane thing you can give a horse, especially if they're really sick, or especially if they can't find a purpose. Euthanasia is way more humane than letting a horse waste away or switch homes over and over and over again because they have a severe behavioral issue, like, I don't think enough people see it from that perspective, and there's
It's
so
a
many
compassion
people
release.
yeah, and it's that like power trip of like, I love animals more than you, so I like, you can't save every single one. Is that animal just going to live to just barely survive too?
Exactly. And is that better than just, you know, having them have their great days and then just letting them finally, you know, feel peace?
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a question of ethics for yourself and your own values and morals, and we're not trying to make that choice for you, but we are trying to question it, so
And
that way you
offer some
question
different perspective and really think what
is
actually
the best option.
yes,
Yeah.
what is the best thing for the horse, and am I keeping this horse alive for me
Or for them.
or for them? And that's a really hard conversation for a lot of people to have with themselves, but it's a very important one. And I mean, we're not sitting here as people who've never had to make these choices.
Nope.
Right?
But
it's, yeah. And it's very easy to be a bleeding heart.
mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I love all creatures. All creatures.
I like most creatures.
And it's really easy to say, oh, you don't care about horses because you don't keep them all alive, or you're not trying to save them. But what is the quality of life of that animal long term? And can you financially make the commitment to this animal so that they fully recover? And if you can't, and you rely on donations to do so,
Yeah. Yep.
I have a hard time with that.
Yep. And then I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're done.
Wow. Well,
What a way to end.
what a way to end. It got real dark and scary at the end, but it's okay. That's the fun of it. You guys, we don't know what's coming down the pipe, and
It's fun.
it's fun.
I hope you learned and have kind of some of your cogs turning, you know? We do another confessions later down the line. So if you feel like, you know, you missed out and you really want to be part of the conversation and just even maybe hear what we have to say about what you have to say, you know, you are more than welcome to be part of our next confessions. It's a little later down the line, but we thought we would put it up here so you can start filling it out. So that next confessions will be, what piece of advice did someone give you that sent you down the wrong path? Because I think it's really important we hear kind of different perspectives on that. And so that will be in our description, as well as in our link tree for all of our social media.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say for this one, because it's a very specific question.
And it makes you think.
Yeah. And I also always think with these is your mistakes or your wrong choices, sharing them aloud gives other people an opportunity to not make the same mistake as you. And I personally always try. If I learn something, I'm like, oh crap, that sucked. I'm always the kind of person who is trying to pass that lesson along, because there's some things, especially with horses, that learning
you don't want to repeat.
Yeah, and
they're too expensive.
Learning the hard way really, really sucks. So keep that in mind when you are brainstorming or brewing what you want to say in this next submission. So once again, the question is, what piece of advice did someone give you that sent you down the wrong path?
All right. Well, I know you love to listen to us. So make sure you're following along, you're reviewing it. We love hearing and seeing reviews. We've had some really nice messages come through, and we really, really do appreciate them. And we do read every single one of them, even if you may not hear us say it out loud, but we do. I'm going to shout out one specifically because I'm curious if they'll write in again. We did hear your submission of saying that you used to live in Canada and now you were in the US, and you heard us on Horses in the Morning, and we're talking about your own experience trying to help a friend with horse death, and we loved hearing your story, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out.
Yes.
That was a tough episode, especially kind of
For
at
you?
the beginning, especially
Yeah.
for me, so thank you for saying that. It means a lot to both of us, so we appreciate it.
Thank you everyone who has commented, who has sent in information and shared their thoughts, and This gives us an opportunity to show the vast thought processes of so many people, and we couldn't do this without you guys. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for participating in this. All right. So our next episode that's coming up, it's going to be another guest in the saddle.
Whoop, whoop.
It'll be fun. Trust me, you'll want to listen to this one.
Yes. We'll see you in a couple weeks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.